Donald Trump isn't slowing down on China, telling the New York Times he won't rule out a war with that country because of our country's needs. More or less saying when it comes to trade, he wants to be unpredictable, like everything else. Gordon Chang says that Trump makes total sense. Gordon Chang, it's so funny to have this topic on a day when a Chinese insurance company is bidding up the shares of Starwood, one of the biggest hotel chains in America. This kind of stuff, of course, with the lost jobs in the last decade or so, have a lot of people worried about trade, particularly with China. On the other hand, no, economists say we're making a huge mistake if we go into a full-blown trade war with them. Why are they wrong?
Well, because we're already in a trade war with the Chinese. It's nice to say, well, it would be nice not to fight them, but they're fighting us. So I think the point is there's an issue here about what the Chinese are doing, which is basically increasingly predatory behavior. If you look at cyber theft alone, that's probably about $200 billion worth of U.S. intellectual property a year that the Chinese are taking. We need to defend ourselves, Charles.
But do you fight cyber theft with higher tariffs?
Well, you fight cyber theft in a number of different ways, but you probably don't use cyber means initially because we do not want to let the Chinese know how good we are. And so the Blair-Huntsman Commission issued their report in May 2013, and their recommendation was tariffs. And I think that makes a lot of sense because it's important for us to keep our powder dry on the cyber areas.
To your point, we are in a trade war, if you will, or trade competition. Every country has tariffs. We have tariffs. China has tariffs. Theirs are a lot higher than ours are. When we start to raise these tariffs, we know that it's going to be the American consumer that takes the brunt of the hit. So people who shop at Walmart should be prepared, should be bracing to pay a lot more. Right? Is that the key?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's certainly going to be the case. There's going to be downsides, of course, Charles, but we also got to put this in a geopolitical context. Because people have been talking about using tariffs to try to push the Chinese so they don't engage in such dangerous behavior in the East China Sea, South China Sea, and in space. And so if it's an issue of trade war versus a real war, well, I'm voting for the trade war because clearly that's the least damaging option. So we have to look at this in a very broad context with regard to our relations with China, because you can't just separate out trade versus security. They're all intermixed.
But admittedly, there would be pain for the average American, and they should understand this before we enter into it.
Oh, yeah, of course. There's going to be a downside. But, Charles, we are past the point where we can say we have options that don't involve costs to the United States because we are paying dearly right now. And so the question is, what are we going to pay? Who's going to bear the costs? So, yes, of course, we have to understand the costs going in, but we can't just sort of ignore the fact that right now the United States is bearing those costs already.
No, you're absolutely right. All right, Gordon Chang, thanks a lot, buddy. Next time we'll get you in studio.
Thanks, Charles.
All right, see you soon.